Hey guys, it's Blunder. I'm just doing this quick little video to show you how I first learned how to do DM tribute runs on my hunter. The way that I'm going to show you is basically a pretty safe way to do it um, without any trinkets, any special trinkets or anything like that. You're just going to use one lesser invisibility potion and one large C4 charge. Um, so this I would recommend for anyone new starting out to try to learn how to do it. I'm not going to cover everything in this video. There's a lot of intricacies and a lot of little tricks and things that you can do to um, save a lot of time, go quicker, that sort of thing. But this is really designed or meant um, to kind of show you a safe way to just kind of learn how to get it down. So basically, I'm outside the entrance right now, and you just reset the entrance and or instance and zone in. First thing I do is I essentially put my pet on passive, or on stay rather, to leave him there, and then I run up and I scatter shot that mob on the right, and then you run and jump up on this ledge. So the thing to keep in mind about this particular jump is that you can't auto run and land on the ledge. You basically have to stop moving forward after you jump so that you land on the ledge and don't move. And once you've done that, then you can jump. So like I use W to run forward. So then I'll hit spacebar to jump. Then I hold W and I will land on the top of the ledge. So we'll take a look at that here. So here I am landing and there I am jumping. At this point, you just run all the way down. There's a good chance that those mobs on the left might aggro you. Sometimes there's a mage or something, and in this case there was, and he frostbolted me, but they can't actually attack you on this ledge. The melee mobs can't. So basically, you run around and you stop here, and you'll see that I'm still in combat, and I basically wait for my tune to get out of combat, and then I jump down, call my pet, and put him on stay. So there's my pet. I put him on stay. The next thing I do is I drop a freezing trap right in front of him, and I'll send my pet in on this first mage lord. As soon as he gets there, I'll put him on passive. That'll force him to run back this way. And as soon as all three mobs are targeting my pet, that's when you know that you can run forward without them accidentally aggroing you instead. So here we go. I send in my pet. I let him attack. I put him on passive. They all target my pet, and I run past. And at this point, you basically want to hug this side of the ramp because at the very top, there should not be a mob there. And it all depends on when you start the instance. If you zone in and you wait for some period of time, all the patrols going through would be in different spots. So I have always done this. I've always started the run immediately when I zone in, so I kind of know where the patrols are going to be. So at this point, you can run up, and then anywhere in this area is fine to feign death. You'll notice that basically what I did was I waited for my pet to despawn, which basically saves me time having to res the pet. I would say on that first pull, my pet dies at least 50% of the time. This case, I got lucky and the pet despawned before it died. So basically you feign death there, and then you just run right to the center of the courtyard here and you loot this key. At this point, we're going to run down to the right-hand pillar, and then what we're going to do is we're going to run diagonally over and jump and land on this ledge. And this ledge is also a safe spot, so no melee mobs can attack you there. If a brute is standing right next to you, they do have this special ability that kind of knocks you up in the air, so you have to be careful if you do get aggro to try to stay away from them as best you can. I typically target this one too because occasionally this mob will aggro me as I'm running down onto this ramp, so I just target him in case I need to scatter shot or something along those lines. It is, once you get the hang of jumping onto this ledge, it's not a big deal, but you might miss, several times in a row when you first start out or whatever the case may be. So just, know that once you get this jump down, you're probably not going to hardly ever miss it anymore. So here I am, I'm going diagonally down, I jump and I land on this ledge. So this pack here sometimes will aggro. Sometimes this brute up here will aggro. If they do, you have two choices. You can either just wait the 10 seconds for them to reset, or you can feign death to immediately reset them, and then you can go from there. So once I've landed on this ledge, I normally turn and face this way so that I can just go backwards and fall off this ledge. So I run and I fall down, I turn and I run straight at this pillar and let this kind of guide me down. And then I go at an angle right down towards the door, and this is where I'm using the key I just looted to open the door. I also put my pet on stay right in this spot. I run up and I do the same pet pull with this group. So I have the pet attack this Reaver. As soon as he gets aggro, I turn him around and I run past. And then I basically run and I turn right into this alcove. And if that wandering eye is there, I kill it before I feign death. If I don't see that eye, I feign death first, and then I kill it once it comes back up. The next thing I do is I just run kind of straight across here, just so I have better visibility into this pack. So I'm going to get my pet full health. Generally speaking, you don't want to pull unless you have 10 seconds or left on your feign death. In this case, I'm down to 13, 12, 10. So I'm going to send my pet in on that pack. You'll notice here what I did was I have this Reaver targeted. I tell my pet to attack, but I've turned my camera so that I can mouse over this Warlock behind us. So now I'm sending my pet in on the Reaver. I've already targeted the Warlock. As soon as he gets there, I tell him to attack the Warlock behind us, and I just run straight through, and I'm going to feign death right in this doorway. And you'll see that I'm basically right in the middle of this diamond-shaped stone in the floor. This is a safe spot. You could be a little bit ahead or you could be a little bit behind, but right in the middle of the diamond is best, because if your pet isn't dead and you call up your pet, it might spawn behind you a little bit. So if you're near the back and you call your pet, it might potentially aggro the pack that we just ran past. So I always stand directly in the middle of the diamond. So I feign death, and instead of moving or anything like that to get out of feign death, I just call my pet. So I used my keybind to call my pet. I heal it up, and now we're going to pull all these bugs. So what I do here is very similar to the last pull. I'm going to send my pet in on this first bug, and as soon as I do that, I'm going to let all the bugs aggro. Then I'm going to send him to go attack one of the pats behind. So I targeted the Reaver now. I'm waiting for all of the... Let me back up and kind of show you again. So I wait for all of the bugs to start attacking the pet before I send it back. So you'll notice here, now that all of these bugs start running towards your pet, that's when you can send it back. If you send your pet in and then immediately start running through, these other bugs in the back might aggro on you instead of your pet. So you want to make sure that all of them start in face and start running towards your pet before you enter this room. Another thing to keep in mind is that there is a Warpwood pod right here, and there's another Warpwood pod right behind this stump over here. You pretty much want to stay away from those. If you get too close, it could be a poison cloud, it could be a group of lashers that spawn, and it's just not something that you want to deal with. So I always run out at an angle to my right, and then I kind of veer back to the left. So you'll see that I kind of run in and to the right, and then I could just kind of turn a little bit and I run straight towards this pillar over here, or this corner. You'll see that Slipkick is there. I'm going to run past him, and I'm going to run all the way down here and feign. Where you feign in this situation completely depends on where Slipkick is. If Slipkick is way over here, when you get to this ledge, or this corner, you would just feign death right here. This is not a safe spot, so keep that in mind. It's a safe spot as long as you kind of shuffle back and forth along this wall, depending on where Slipkick is. So he's in that corner now. You want to stay in this spot until at least he gets to this trap, and then what will happen is he'll get to this trap, then he'll kind of angle up. Once he starts angling up, you can kind of shimmy along this wall and get back to this safe spot over here. On the flip side, if you're down here and he's walking this way, you want to wait until he does a 90-degree turn, and you'll see that here in just a minute. So if you're on the other side, and he's coming up this way, he's going to do like a 90-degree turn right here. So if he walks up, and as soon as he turns and starts walking this way, that's when you can shimmy back over to the other side. So you'll see it right there. He turns right there, and that's when you would want to run back this way. So now that he's passed, we still have another eye to kill, which is right there. So I shoot that now. Normally one auto shot and one arcane shot will kill those. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run up to the edge here, not go past the edge, but I'm going to run up to the edge and I'm going to drop another trap right there. There's a number of ways to do this, but I found this to be a fairly straightforward and easy way. So you'll drop a trap here, and what you're going to do is you're going to aggro this Reaver and the other one over here. This one's much closer, so it's going to get trapped, and then I typically just scatter shot this one, and I keep going. So the timing of this is that I wait for slip kick to get to this spot and turn around, and then as soon as he turns around and starts walking the other way, that's when I aggro, and I do that just by walking out in front of them. So there they went. I walk out. This one will get trapped. I scatter shot at that one. You'll notice that he hit me and I got dazed. Even if you get dazed there, you still have enough range to get away. So I run all the way up and I feign death right in front of this ramp. So this is a temporary safe spot in that these mobs can't see you and they won't attack you. You're out of range of all of these other ones. So a lot of times what I'll do is I will wait. I'll stand up by turning. You don't want to jump here because if you jump, these will see you and attack you. So I just use A or D to turn to stand up. And then I generally wait 10 seconds or so to let my feign death cooldown get a little bit closer to zero because there is the possibility that the invis potion will wear out and you'll get aggro before you get to the next safe spot. And in this video, I kind of intentionally did that to show you what would happen. So here I am, I'm standing up. I'm going to go ahead and pop my lesser invisibility potion. And then I'll start running up the ramp. But oops, I kind of goofed up a little bit, and now I'm just going to run straight up. So normally what you would do is you would run up, you would turn and face this ramp. And then what I do is I do a running jump and I land right on this rail. And that just saves you a little bit of time so that you don't have to run and turn and run up. You can just do a jump turn, land on this, and go all the way up. Normally what would happen is that you do a jump turn like this, and your invis potion won't wear off until you're about here. And that is safe. So you're safe if you get to this point. In this case, that didn't happen, and you'll see that I got into combat. So what you do in that case is that you just run all the way up, and you run and jump into this corner, and you can feign. Now, I was able to get my feign off because I waited at the bottom of the ramp after I stood up. If you don't do that and you use your invis potion from feign death, then you'll still have several seconds before you'll be able to feign. So what I normally do, if that happens, I would recommend just standing here. You can pop deterrence if you have it, or use aspect of the monkey and kind of absorb a couple of hits, and then wait, and then just feign as soon as you can. And normally that will work just fine. So in this case, we're going to have to run back down the ramp to put our pet up down there. So what I do here is I wait for my feign death to come completely off of cooldown, because there is a possibility that the pack to my left will aggro me when I go back down. And I think in this case they do. Oh no, I guess they don't. So you can run down, call your pet, or res your pet, or whatever the case may be. And I always put my pet right at the edge of the ramp right here. The thing to keep in mind is that if you run to this back ledge, the pack on the floor below you can aggro you, and they'll run all the way up and start attacking you. So you really don't want to go past, like I would recommend not going past like the halfway line. I pretty much stay right at the base. So what I do here is I run down and I put my pet on stay right there, and then I run up most of the way, and that's where I drop, I don't know if you could see that, but I dropped a frost trap right in the middle of the ramp. Once I'm back up here, you'll see that I got into a combat again from that pack over there, so you just feign death and stand back up again. At this point, you know, I've got 22 seconds left on my feign. I'm going to let that cool down a few more seconds, and then I'm going to send my pet in on this first Reaver right here. So there's my pet going up to attack him. In this case, I definitely wait for both of the Reavers to look at my pet before you start running. And then you just do a little jump right there and turn. And then here is where I used my C4ium charge hotkey. In my case, I use F. So I clicked F and then I clicked on the door, and that will start unlocking the door. So you can see here that at least this Reaver is stuck in my frost trap. And really the only reason to do that is so that you save time by not letting your pet die. So you'll notice that I ran all the way straight ahead. My pet despawned. It was still alive, so I'm going to feign. You could just stand up here, or you could wait in case there's any kind of a weird combat bug with these Reavers. But now that they're back in their positions, I stand up, I call up my pet, and then what I do, and there's a number of ways you can just put your pet on stay back here, but I run right into this wall right here, and you keep running until your pet kind of gets into that position, and that's where I put him on stay. So the pet's on stay there, and I do that so that when I get to my next spot where I want to feign death, it's enough range for the pet to despawn again, so that he doesn't die, so that I don't have to waste time rezzing him. So now I'm sending my pet in on this Reaver. He's going to get there, turn around, and then I'm just going to run past again. In this case, you'll see that I get hit with a cripple. And basically, that will happen every once in a while, where one of those Doom Guards will cast a cripple on you, and basically, it's just a movement speed debuff. I don't know if you saw that, and you can get rid of that by just using your PvP trinket. I didn't use it in this case to show you what would happen. So if you don't have a PvP trinket, it's not a requirement. It just kind of saves time. There's two spots where this will typically happen. And the first one is right after you open the door with the courtyard key, and then this is the second spot. And usually you'll have enough time to where your trinket is on off a cooldown by the time you do this. But again, it's not a critical thing. In this case, you can see that my pet despawns before it dies, so I'm still able to run to this spot and feign death. So here we are in the next spot now. I stand up, I call my pet, put my pet on stay and heal it up. And then what I do here is I'll send my pet in on Crom Crush, and then he'll get aggro. The pet will aggro Crom Crush, and then I'll send him back on this pack behind us. So there he goes. He's going to aggro Crom Crush. I'm going to immediately send it back to the pack behind us to get him out of the way. And then you can just run and hug left and get right into this far left corner and feign death. So in this case, there wasn't enough room or distance for the pet to despawn, so you're just going to have to res your pet at this spot. This is not the way I normally do it. Normally I pull Crom Crush and the pack in front of us, but that's a little bit riskier. So I'm just showing you kind of a safer way to do it. So again, similar situation. We're going to res our pet. We're going to feed it, heal it, and then and put it on stay. And I put it on stay. It's not going to come back to this location, but I like to put it on stay so that it's not running around while I'm trying to target this next pack. So what you can do in this case is we're going to target the captain, I believe, up to our left. So we'll target that captain, and then we kind of get into a different situation where we can now see this pack behind Crom Crush. So a similar situation, I'm going to send my pet into the captain. He's going to aggro that whole pack. Then I'm going to tell my pet to attack this pack back here, and that definitely gives us enough time to get distance so that the pet despawns before it dies. So I'm sending my pet on the captain. I've targeted the reaver behind us. He gets aggro. I send my pet back, and I run past. At this point, I just did a track beasts because there is a dog patrol of 3 dogs that go in a kind of a big path around here that we're going to kill. I don't typically kill the dog patrol anymore, but for starting out, to take it slow, it's definitely a good idea to kill the dog patrols starting out. So at this point, the dog patrols are here, and I'm going to kill them up top. I'm going to use this ledge to kind of kite them around. They won't always necessarily be there, especially when you're first starting out. So if you want to take it slow and wait until they're basically right here, this is probably the most ideal spot to kill them from my perspective, because it gives you plenty of time. But basically what I do is, because the Gordok spirits behind us that won't attack you, but they put you into combat. So basically, in order for me to use a trap right now, I have to feign death. And you can see that the dogs are here, and I've got 10 seconds left on my feign death cooldown. So basically, I just wait it out. I feign death, and I drop a frost trap, and then I jump down and attack these dogs. So I'll wait for feign death to come off a cooldown. I'll feign drop a frost trap. There's the trap, and then I'm just going to run down here, and basically what I do here is I'll target one, I'll do an aimed shot, multi-shot, and then I'll basically throw a serpent sting on all of them. And what I'm going to do is kite them back up the ramp over the frost trap. So here they are, and I'm going to probably send my pet in on one of them. So there's the first serpent sting, there's another one, and there's another one. Now at this point, my multi-shot is up, so I'm going to cast multi-shot on them. Let them get a little bit closer to me, but then you can drop down, and then they're just going to get hit by this frost trap again to slow them down again. So you just kind of shoot them down. It's not terribly difficult to do. What you can do is, if you don't do as much damage, or you're having a hard time, or they missed the trap, or you don't have a trap, you can run up this ledge, jump down, and then you can actually use the other ledge to my right now to do the same thing. So you can actually run down this side, they will follow you through, and then you can jump down and run either back up the ramp or back up the other side, depending on which direction they turn. But it's basically just a kiting game. You might get to a point to where you can't get range on them, or whatever the case may be. So you can, what I've done in the past is you can pop deterrence with Aspect of the Monkey, and then you can wing clip them, or just melee them down depending on how much health is left. But keep in mind, they do hit pretty hard. So you don't really want to just start meleeing all 3 of them, because they'll probably kill you. So in this case, I just finish off this dog. And then now we're ready to actually start the fight. So there's a multitude of ways to start the pull. I'm going to show you probably the safest way. And that way, I think, is you basically put your pet into position first. So we're going to run our pet all the way down and stick him right in this corner down here. And we'll put him on stay. The reason why is because the King Gordok does a charge, and he can't charge your pet when it's hidden behind this pillar like this. So I'm going to put my pet right in this corner, and I'm going to put him on stay. And what you should do is you should have growl off, and you should have dash off of auto, that is. I didn't do that here, and you'll see I kind of had to reset the pet a little bit. And I'll explain that in just a second. So here I'm just feigning to drink. And then now I'm going to put my hunter into position, and then I'll start the pull. So here I think I was trying to show my pet's abilities. I was. So basically, the pet's abilities don't matter a whole lot. You definitely need or want dash for sure. I put fire resistance and shadow resistance on my pet, and frost actually, because the mages will frostbolt. One version of Cho Rush is a mage, and he has really strong fire damage. and then the shadow damage is, or the shadow resistance is for the Doom Guards, so he might occasionally resist, you know, a cripple or something along those lines. But it's not incredibly important. You want good stamina, you want, you know, dash for sure, and you don't necessarily want your pet to die during this pull. So here we go. I'm going to run down and get into position. So there's my pet. I'm going to run, I'm going to jump down, and I'm going to get right on this corner right here. So keep in mind that if you run past like this pillar, your pet will despawn because it will be out of range. So you're pretty much locked into being in this area right here. So this is fine. I run and I stop at this first corner, and then this is where I'm going to stand, and I'm going to send my pet in. You'll notice that I left dash on my pet. The reason why you don't want to have your pet start with dash is that by the time he gets to aggro Cho, dash will be on cooldown and he'll probably die getting back to his spot. So normally what I do is I, in this case you saw I took dash off. I'm going to send my pet in, have him run the slow way until he gets to about here. Once he gets to about here, I'll enable dash. He'll run in, attack Cho, and then when I put him on passive, he'll have the speed to get out of range. So here we go. He's going to just slowly run all the way down. And like I say, once he gets to about there or so is where I will turn dash on. So there he is. I enable dash, I get aggro on Cho, I put him on passive, and then they both start running to attack him. So at this point, this is basically a kiting back and forth game where you're swapping aggro between you and your pet. And how I typically start this fight is that I'll start off with an aimed shot, multi-shot, and serpent sting on the king. And I normally start the cast right when the king is right over this kind of symbol in this pillar right here. That gives you plenty of time to be able to get the aimed shot off before it gets to your pet. So what you don't want to do is let the king or Cho just start pounding on your pet because it'll die and you'll have to reset the whole thing. So here's my aimed shot, here's my multi-shot, here's my serpent sting. I'll get a couple of auto shots off, and then now it's time to get aggro on Cho. So you'll notice what I did was I cast an auto shot and then I did a viper sting. So it's really important for, there's three versions of Cho Rush. There's a priest, which is what this one is, and there's a shaman. Both the priest and the shaman will heal the king when he gets to a certain health. So you really need to drain their mana and keep it drained the whole fight. Otherwise, they're just going to heal the king, and it drags out the fight that much longer. The Fire Mage version of Cho Rush doesn't heal the king at all, but it might be a good idea to just Viper Sting that one as well, because it nukes for a lot, and once you have them drained, you don't have to worry about kind of line of sighting them around this pillar or anything. So basically in this case, I did a Viper Sting, and you can run back out and forth to kind of keep aggro on him. And then at this point, you'll notice that I feigned. To play it safe, you want to feign death when the mob coming at you is 30 yards away or farther, because if you do that, you have a 100% chance that feign death won't be resisted. You can wait until they get right on top of you, and most of the time the feign will work, but then there will be that time where it will get resisted, and then you're going to have to jump down, kind of run away, try to kite the mobs around, and in this case, your pet might die, or you might have to reset the whole fight, or you might die. So for all those reasons, you give yourself plenty of room here to feign death before they get on top of you. So here I am. I basically feigned, tried to get a little bit of mana by drinking, and then I Viper Sting Cho again. And you can kind of get into line of sight to keep him there and wait for the Viper Sting cooldown to come up, and then just Viper Sting him again. So the sooner you get Cho Rush out of mana, the better. The other thing too was that I waited too long to cast aimed shot on king. So what I did instead was I waited until he got to about here, and I opened up with a multi-shot. So if you wait here, do a multi-shot, and then a serpent sting, and then you still have enough time to get an aimed shot before he gets out of range. So there's the serpent sting, and then here's me casting aimed shot. And then you want to run up. Now that chosen range, you can Viper Sting him again, hide behind the pillar, wait till he gets close, feign death, and then right while you're still feigned, hit your drink icon to start drinking. And then just rinse and repeat. So again, we're going to open up with an aim shot on the king right when he's about there. So aim shot, multi, and a serpent. And you'll get a couple of auto shots off, and then you'll aggro Cho, get a Viper Sting off, and you'll just keep doing this over and over until he's dead. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. So there's Cho almost out of mana. So now the king is kind of starting to get low on health, and when he gets low on health, he starts walking a lot slower than he normally does. So it gives you a little bit more time to kill him. So now he's going to walk very slowly up here, and in some cases you have enough time to get 2 aimed shots off on him if you have time. But really in this case it's just he walks a lot slower, so it's a little bit easier to manage. So you can actually wait to cast aimed shot until he's about here, and he still won't have enough time to get to your pet. So the big thing here is once the king is almost dead, you're like, can I kill him? And in this case, he's so close to death, but you really don't want to risk it. You just want to, you don't want to run up here, chase after him, and have your pet despawn, and then have them both run at you. Just slow and steady wins the race here. And he'll die the normal way if you just wait. So here he is again. He's running up, and he's got 1,491 health, and there he goes. So that's all that there is to it. So now that the king is dead, you'll notice that what I do is the first thing is go and loot the king. And then from there, we're actually going to go and talk to an NPC before we do anything else. So we're going to run up here, we're going to loot the corpse, and see what we got. So in this case, I got a couple of nice items that sell for quite a bit of gold. I also got a Forest Compendium of Dragon Slaying this run, which was my first ever and probably 350 runs, so I was pretty excited about that. So after looting the king, we're going to run right through to this last guard here, and we're going to talk to him. So if you don't talk to this guard, you'll have 1 less blue item in the tribute chest. So it's really to your advantage to talk to this guy first. Then we can turn around and notice that all these mobs are red, but if you mouse over them, you don't get the sword icon. You still have the normal icon, the gauntlet, and so they won't attack you. So at this point, we're going to talk to Mizzle, and we're going to get the King debuff, which makes all of the mobs in here green except for the bugs. And we're going to tell him, hey, we want some loot. We'll loot the chest. And then at this point, there's still other things that we can do. So we're looting the chest now. There's 3 locations in the dungeon where there will be a book, a dusty tome. This is the first spot right next to Chorush. Normally you'll just get trash out of it, but occasionally you'll get a class book. There's also 3 locations in here where there might be a chest. Now half the time the chest is locked, the other time it's not, but you're pretty much guaranteed a high level green, potentially a blue, potentially a purple, depending on how the range gods are that day. So we're going to run down back the way we came. And the very next thing we're going to stop at is a possible chest location. So we see that, yep, this is where the chest actually is, and it's locked. So we just ignore it and move on. So since that is the chest, since that's where the chest is, the other two locations will not have a chest, and so we're not going to be able to loot a chest this particular time. The next thing I'm going to show you is where the Ogre Tannin is. I never loot this thing, but it is there. The Ogre Tannin is used to make the Ogre suit. So in case you want to do a normal tribute run with a full group of people, you can actually loot this without any aggro after you've completed the instance, and you can use that to make the Ogre suit. The next location that we're going to check is the second book spawn location, which is basically right underneath this ramp where we're standing, right next to these bones. So again, the second book spawn is right in there. Now we're going to talk to Slipkick and get the buff. In this case, it is a +3 spell crit buff, which obviously doesn't provide us any value. This next location, right in this corner, is where the second chest location might be. So right in here, sometimes there's a chest there. Now there is a way to skip this entire pack that I didn't show you, but if you want to run through and check all of these locations every time, we'll pull this pack again. So basically I put my pet on stay, I drop a frost trap right here, I send my pet in on this bug, and then I wait for them to aggro, put them on passive, and I just run past. There also is a way to do this where you actually kill the bugs. That's a little bit riskier in my opinion for first starting out. So I would recommend just pulling them out of the way like we just did. So now we're going to run up to the top of the ramp and we're going to make a right-hand turn, and right down this hallway is the last chest location. So right in this little cubby, right to the right, this is where the final chest might exist. And then right over here, next to this group of weeds, I'll call them, there's going to be the last book spawn is right there. At this point, I'm just running up to find Fengus and see if I can get that next buff. This next buff that you get from him is 200 melee attack power. It doesn't apply to ranged, but it's still nice to have in case you end up meleeing the dogs or the bugs or something along those lines. The next thing that you'll notice here is that this is the other whipper pod, or warpwood pod rather, that's in the zone. This one's fairly easy to check, so a lot of times I will spend the time to check this one. I don't, unless I kill the bugs, I don't check the other two in that other room. However, it could be a poison, it could be lootable, it could be nothing, or it could spawn 4 lashers. So what I normally do here is I'll drop a frost trap just in case it's the lashers. And you'll also notice I put Aspect of the Monkey on. So at this point, I'm going to talk to Fengus, and I'm going to get that 200 melee attack power buff, and then I'm just going to inch forward towards that warpwood pod and see if I can loot it. And in this case, no, it was lashers. So I run them right into that frost trap, and then at this point you can just run away and feign death. And in this case, I feigned death, I didn't aggro my pet, so I'm good to go. So now I'm going to run to the vendor, and I'm going to get rid of some things that I got this run, and disenchant the things that I didn't want to sell. Enchanting is not a requirement. You'll get a lot of raw gold. So I'm at 419 gold right now. So I'm selling a couple things. And I'm up to 434 gold. That wasn't bad, and then I'm disenchanting these other things. The blues pretty much 100% of the time will disenchant into a large brilliant shard. The greens, depending on what they are, could disenchant into 1 or 2 illusion dust, which I think is what I got this time. Yep, I got 2 illusion dust on that one, and I got 1 on that one. So you'll notice that that green actually sold for 2 gold, or 1 gold, 97 silver, and I disenchanted it and I got 1 illusion dust. So sometimes it makes more sense to sell items. The weapons obviously have a much greater probability of disenchanting into 1 or 2 greater eternal essences, and so it's definitely worth it there. But you then run the risk of them occasionally disenchanting into like a single illusion dust. So this is the other thing I wanted to mention. So you'll notice that I talked to this guard. He gave me a buff, but I already had the buff. I don't know if you saw that. So I already have Moldar's Moxie, and I got 31 minutes left on a 2-hour buff. So when you talk to him and you already have the buff on, it doesn't refresh the time. So you actually have to click the buff off, talk to him again, and then you'll get the full 2-hour duration of the buff. And then that's basically the whole run. So you just run outside, you reset all instances, you run back in, and you do it again and again and again and again. So hey, I hope this video was helpful. Here's a link to the talents that I'm currently using. So I do a 03417 currently is what I run with, and I run this for tributes, raids, everything. This is my spec. Like I said, hope this is useful. Hope you get some value out of it, and ask me any questions you might have. Thanks so much.